So we were having a conversation before we started the video, and I know everybody always wants to hear about cases and stuff, but they don't often hear about psychic abilities. And I get a lot of questions to me from clients, about what is real? Can I trust this feeling I have? Does it exist that we can, when we're involved with somebody that we know what they're thinking, and what is it like? I mean, what does it mean when you have this very real dream about somebody? And, I get all these questions about psychic work, psychic abilities. So the answer is they're all kind of relevant, as far as well, as far as tuning into people that we're close to, it's usually kind of a mutual zone. If you haven't thought of somebody in a while, and then all of a sudden you start thinking about them, and then you get a call from them, the psychic stream, as I call it, isn't really something that's only available for psychics.
Mm.
I mean, as a parent, as a mom, you're actually, when you're pregnant, your abilities are very heightened.
Mm-hmm.
You are sharing thoughts with that child, and that child is not just a physical body, but that child is a spirit that comes from beyond the body.
Mm-hmm.
And we are all spirits first, and basically just placed in these bodies. But our bodies also hold the potential, like the way we act, the way we look, have reflections of what we might have lived as in the past, whether it was a past life or something.
Mm-hmm.
But psychic abilities are always there. It's just it's a matter of unlearning your thinking if you've been taught to think a certain way.
Right.
Yeah, but
And, I hear a lot of people that say they meditate before maybe looking into certain issues or really allowing for themselves to lend themselves spiritually. Is that something that you agree with or disagree with? How does that work for you, would you say?
well, funny enough, I don't think meditation is really the key to having psychic abilities, because I do feel just like somebody who's depressed or somebody who has anxiety, the body physically can also cloud up clear thinking.
Right.
So if your meditation can unlock you physically too, then it can help. But I also feel that psychic abilities are brought on by a physical state in your body. No, it doesn't mean that because you eat yogurt, you're more spiritual. But it's kind of, but there is a mind-body connection to reaching to the other side, which isn't the other side. It's actually right here with us. The psychic stream of consciousness it's here. It's not like someplace you have to reach out to.
Yes.
Just like people that die, they don't go anywhere. They're here, just not in the physical state. But there are different levels of that spirit realm, so it's sometimes we don't hear from people. There's just so many layers to the universe, so to speak.
Yes, I can definitely understand that. Can you talk a little bit about when the first time that you ever had anything happen that made you realize maybe you were different, that you could see things differently? Do you remember when that time was?
Well, I was very young. I was a young child. I could see spirits. I remember going to my great-grandmother was still alive when I was younger, and I remember going to her house. She loved to cook food. And I came over there with my mom and I think my grandparents, and I was walking through her apartment. and she lived alone. Excuse my cat in the background. She lived alone, and I remember I opened a closet door, and in there I saw a man. I mean, clear as could be, real, not even a shadow figure, full. And he was just sitting there on the floor, and he was just like, and immediately I ran over to like my mom and said, "There's a guy in the closet."
Oh.
And they all looked at me like I was kind of crazy, but I was maybe about 5 or 6. I mean, I was young.
Yeah, you were
And
just a kid.
I had a lot of realizations about I think I was a very sensitive child. I was actually a pain in the ass to my mother because I was so sensitive.
I was too. You're not alone.
I didn't want to be around other kids.
Mm.
I used to scream. Um, I felt like I saw people that were sick, and I felt it in them, and it gave me so much anxiety, fear. Um,
Yeah.
but death really death really affected me. I it was just I remember driving with my father one time. We were on a long road trip, and I looked at him and I started to get tears, and I didn't know what was going on.
Mm.
And I saw his death,
Oh, wow.
but he's still alive now.
Mm-hmm.
But I must have seen something far in the future,
Yeah.
and
And it scared you.
yeah. So from a young age, I was very very sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think I was psychic or a medium or anything. Didn't make sense until my 30s when I started to understand this, what was happening to me. Even in my 30s, I doubted what I did. I
Yeah.
thought I thought it was coincidental.
Yep.
It took about 1,300 and something coincidences to really kind of set into me that something was going on there. I mean, I'd have a neighbor lose a dog or something. How do I know it's over down there near the reservoir? I didn't even know. They find the dog. Or somebody who passed away in a house, I'd say, yes, there was a man that was sitting here. I'd describe him. They're like, God, how do you know that?
Mm-hmm.
So this is I think like psychic abilities, or when you first come into them, is really, really scary.
It is very scary. Absolutely scary. I remember when my first experience, I was about almost 16 years old. And I had a dream. It was more like a nightmare where I witnessed a young girl who was in a truck driving around, I saw, which was not correct, but it was her driving along kind of a mountainous road. And then all of a sudden, she's flown from the vehicle and laying face down and in and out of consciousness, and sirens that were in the background. And my dream ended, and I was so scared about it. I actually woke up and talked to my mom about it. And then 2 weeks later, my cousin, who was 2 weeks younger than myself, was in a car accident, and she had died very similarly to what I just explained. That always stuck with me. I've had a lot of weird things that I've known about people, things that I wouldn't have possibly known, relationship related matters, health related matters, case related matters, where these things are coming to me, and there's no way that I would know these things, and I later end up being right. So it's very scary because you see certain information, you see things in people, you go to a crowded place, you feel overwhelmed because you just feel like you can feel everyone and what is going on with them. Um, and it
Yeah, I have
becomes
that
very
trouble
overwhelming.
too.
Yeah,
Going to public places.
yeah. Almost like you just want to break away, but you don't feel like it's very good for you socially to do that. So you just have to try to make your way through the next step.
Well, people have asked me if I ever felt somebody dangerous and in public, and the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've come across a couple of people that I felt harmed people who were very, very dangerous people. But I couldn't just come out and, tell somebody, hey, that guy's a killer,
Yeah.
So I really just, it's part of the frustration is what you see, you can't prevent. And I get a lot of people that come to me that way. They said they've had those prophetic dreams like what you're talking about, and then a plane crash happens or an incident happens. And they said, I saw that, but I'm frustrated. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't prevent it. So that's a common one.
It's almost like having survivor's guilt, because when you're in the situation and what you see coming to fruition later, or soon after the fact, it's like, I should have been able to do something about this. I was given this knowledge, but I didn't do anything with it. And
you brought up a very good point, actually. Survivor, fight or flight instinct. I find that people who are highly intuitive have a stronger fight or flight instinct. And you have that for sure, because I felt when you were younger, that fight or flight instinct really was strong with you.
yes, very much. My life has been completely about survival in many aspects.
And it causes a little bit of distrust with people, but also not in a bad way, because that will help you out with your family and to be reactive of things that are threatening, but that fight or flight response, around the time that I got it, to really experience my psychic abilities, was the heaviest anxiety time of my life. And I don't know what it was. I lived alone. I lived in a forest. I ran a farm. I'd come in after working all day in my boots and my work clothes and fall asleep and not have dinner. And so my anxiety level was, I think, so high because I lived such a remote life. But I lived on a property from the 1700s. The house was built in the 1800s. I had spirits everywhere. I had, the weird thing was, I actually had the descendant, the great grandson who I met of the people who once built the house, say to me when he came to me, he says, "You're acting like my grandfather. You are starting." Yeah, I started to take on the personality and everything about the people that live there. And it was just such a weird time,
That is strange.
But going back to intuitive abilities have probably been able to help you personally. Because if you shut it off, and some people do because maybe they're religious or something, we're not supposed to know about this. We're not supposed to be like this, then got a fight going on inside of you.
I dealt with that heavily. Yes.
Not that I'm trying to do a reading on you, but
That's okay. I have nothing to hide. It's one of those things internally that I really questioned for a while, because I would have people telling me, family members, or just, it was almost kind of an embarrassment type of thing, this sort of ability. I mean, I'll be honest, you think of a psychic, you think of some weirdo with a crystal ball, and that was not the type of, I guess, view that I wanted towards myself. But then also you have the people on the other side that are like, the Bible says that it's a sin if to meet with soothsayers and psychics, and that you should steer clear of it. You know, and it does say that, but on the other side, there are also gifts that are outlined very clearly within the Bible. And one of those gifts being the gift of prophecy, foresight, tongues. There's several. And so, on one hand, you can't say that this is evil. It's something we don't understand. It's something that is, you know, in some cases, absolutely evil. I mean, Satan can use the same sort of tricks to deceive and can probably allow for these types of things to happen with people, depending on the spiritual, I guess, implication of what's trying to be achieved. But you can't just shut it down because you don't understand it and say it's evil when it could actually be used for good.
Well, there are a lot of intuitive people using it for their own,
Yeah.
to get out their own issues. And they're also using it for, or misusing it.
Right.
Which is true. Although it always, you know, I'm not religious, but I'm very close to religious people. I've actually done readings for pastors. I've who are very open people.
Yes.
But here's the thing: to understand the religion, how do you know what, let's say, God wants you to do, unless you have some insight, unless you have some intuition? How do you hear that voice? How do you, you know, I have people that say, I feel the message. This is not just a reflex of the brain. I think that people who really get a good message are using their intuitive abilities. But we're so misled in our culture that this is witchcraft, this is taboo.
Right.
And it's hard, though, because there are people who do use that.
Oh, absolutely. I am absolutely. And
So
you're right.
yeah, it just too many stigmas. Although some of the closest clients that I have are from places like India. To them, everything is spiritual. To them, every message is sacred. To them, respect for the living as well as the dead is absolute. It's a culture that transcends. It's way beyond our culture of money and possessions and power and ego and what I look like and what I, you know, I just have an incredible respect for the people in India who, you know, the family, the importance of the family, and the respect, but also they understand the forces of these things that we're talking about.
Right.
You know, they open themselves up to it. They know that when somebody dies in their family, that it's not whether they don't go out and get a recording device to see if some spirit talks to them. They already know those messages come to them.
Yes. And I think sometimes that's where it might become a little bit concerning, is if you are seeking those paranormal elements of attempting to communicate with spirit, because you don't often know what's coming through. And like you said, I think that intuition it's about purity. It's about allowing yourself to maybe be open-minded, to accept whatever gift or whatever message is being sent through you, but maybe not actively seeking it. Is that sort of what you think about that?
Well, it's almost like people who have near-death experiences. It's been activated in them. It takes a very scary incident to activate it in them, and also, well, even if you go through a divorce or something that causes that PTSD, can activate that intuition. I think that you can go over the limit to be sensitive. And that's when I first started. That's why I sought out the help of a psychic. I would have never done that, but I was too sensitive. Too sensitive to the point where I'm doing a reading of somebody who passed away from a heart attack, and I feel that heart attack for weeks and weeks and just can't get rid of it.
Oh.
So it was physically affecting me. So I do have talked to some people who are a little too sensitive.
What sort of advice would you have for someone who might be dealing with that situation, maybe walking into something that they don't fully understand and really feeling that trauma of what they feel like they've experienced firsthand?
Well, funny enough, if they're capable of it, I will recommend that they take up a physical routine. I did that with one of my clients who had the heavy burden, a tragedy. She ran over a woman in her car. It was a homeless woman. It was not her fault. It was just the woman came out so quick, you know. And the woman died in front of her, and she had to live with this. And she got visions from the woman, you know, coming constant. So she had a friend who was a judo or martial arts instructor. I told her, I said, this is what we need to do. We need to physically transform you now to deal with the mental. Because just sitting at home is not helping. It's bringing on dreams. So if you're too sensitive sometimes the physical can help. Of course, people who meditate and do stuff like that, not everybody can do that.
I can't.
I can't either. I don't meditate.
Yeah.
I go out and do yard work or, you know, ride one of my bikes. After my appointments, I will be doing some kind of routine to offset me, or I'll listen to a song loud on my radio. And
Yeah.
but I think the other secret of intuitive abilities is this shut-off switch where you go blank. Most people have all this stuff on their mind. I think you do have that. I do feel you have that shut-off switch because you were annoyed and tormented when you were younger in certain capacities, pressure put on you, and you just had this like tune-off switch.
Yes. And actually, it's very much like that with people in my life, too. I mean, to be perfectly honest, if I'm offended, if somebody wrongs me, I mean, I believe in forgiveness, obviously, but, you know, if it becomes a matter of repetition and there just comes a point where you just have to say, I'm done, and you just cut them off. And it's kind of like, that's how I think I handle things internally, where I just move on.
Well, it's like it's getting your heart broken many times too. You become not heartless, but you have a mechanism to detach yourself.
Right. It's almost like a cop who becomes hardened or cold after dealing with so much devastation. So I don't know. That could be part of it.
Oh yeah, soldiers in war, military people have the hardest job in the world. When you take a life to defend a life, you don't realize how hard that is until you actually do it. And it haunts people, and obviously, and I know that you know about the military quite a bit. What they go through, there's no way to kind of teach somebody about it before it happens. Or seeing a friend die in front of you, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
for me, I ran a farm. So I had dozens of animals die in front of me over periods of time, from death, old age, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, Having to pick up a sheep, that died,
Mm-hmm.
have to pick up his body and then having to, dig him and put him in the ground. And it did something to me.
It's
I,
horrible.
yeah, I guess it made me not less afraid of death, but more in tune with death. I
Right.
could feel messages from that animal even after they passed. Um, so I understood more about the mediumship, the death, by participating in keeping animals and having to go through that.
Yes. Yeah. And almost like feeling though, even though they've passed on, they're still with you. Almost that there's a sense of, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's okay, relief, encouragement that everything's going to be okay, sort of feeling.
Yeah, and especially with the horses.
Mm-hmm.
I had horses that passed away, and I saw their spirit go into another horse. That other horse would act the way they did,
Oh.
that they would have the same habits and things like that. Uh, there's so much to life that we can't even really conceive of, especially in the animal world, of the communication with animals. And this sometimes throws people off. Communication with animals is a little different than people. Yes, they have love. Um, they're appreciative of the people who've taken care of them, but their mannerisms, when they come through in mediumship's totally different than, let's say, a mother or father. It's Animals have instincts. They want comfort,
Right.
and and they, will often appear in certain ways in the dead realm to us, but they will come around in other forms too. That's like if new pets are taken in, sometimes they reflect that energy of the new pet. It's just
Yeah.
and yeah, they they guide pets to come to us? Yes, they can. That's I've seen that so many times. Um, that's why people often do stupid things
Mm.
regarding pets. They want a dog that's fashionable, so they get a certain type or a certain breed.
Yeah.
Not such a good choice when you're really judging the animal by its spirit. That means to even get, if you want a puppy, well, and you have a baby, bad idea. Better
Yeah.
to have a mature or older dog.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so people often make those wrong choices.
One of the next things I think we were talking about before the call, where we were saying we don't often see things about ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's where we kind of need help understanding what may or may not come about with us. So I 100% agree with you because understanding things about myself is very difficult for me to do.
Yeah. It is frustrating. Most intuitives have that problem because we have a microscope on ourselves. We have you know we tend to pick over us with a fine-tooth comb. We know our faults, we know our feelings, we have too much bias.
Yeah.
I mean, uh, and so it's very hard. That's a frustration that I have, that I live with, is I can sit here and do a few readings in the morning and just kind of blow them away one by one, whether it's a case or this and that. I'm not saying I'm perfect. Everybody's different, but I can go through and they've all helped. And then I get certain facts. But then I'll have somebody, maybe a friend or something, talk about something, and I don't know how to handle it. I'm lost. It's just, or I lose something in the house.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
where the hell I put it? And I'm sitting here actually charging people to find missing objects for them. I'm like, what's wrong with this picture, But I do help them. Not all the time, but as I do a majority find these things for them. But yeah, for my own stuff and for our own situations,
Mm-hmm.
there is a way you can help yourself, though. There is a way. And I have found this very helpful. I had a situation going on about a year ago with somebody kind of close to me, and I had so many questions. And every time I asked one of my intuitive friends, they all had a bias about it, an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't get clarity on this, and I called her the voice. This woman, I don't know, she felt very real to me. I feel it was either somebody I knew who passed away, and I could hear her spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just sitting outside or something, doing something one night, and I asked her a question, and she told me the answer about in relation to this person. And I couldn't believe she was right. That advice was right. In fact, several times it was right, even though I didn't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you can reach out to the spirit realm and ask them questions. If you lost a grandmother or somebody, and you have to do sometimes just get a picture, light a candle or something, and just start reaching out to her, and then ask her questions.
Oh.
And usually you can get wisdom, you can get advice that way. Um, I have some friends that passed away that I sometimes ask advice from, um, who will reply with the F word. you know,
Oh,
oh, you sissy, that's them. They
yeah.
don't change. But it's good advice. It is
Yeah.
good advice. So if you're unsure about your own stuff, reach out to those on the other side.
Yeah.
Many psychics have what they call spirit guides. Um, and, if you're lucky enough to be able to be helped in that capacity, it's great. But most people don't have a clue about that, but they do have guides around them.
Mhm.
It's a little hard sometimes. I feel, some psychics are very skilled at getting in touch, with those guides. But for average people, sometimes really just communicating to the spirits around you or somebody you loved could be enough to help you.
Very interesting. Yeah. How do you think that the spirits from those that you love come to us? Do you think it might be as simple as maybe a door opening randomly, or that's, I guess, more paranormal, but maybe just a thought that you have about somebody? In your experience, what is that consisted of?
Um, I I feel like sometimes the people in our family are not connected to us. And
Mm-hmm.
on the other side, I also feel sometimes that um, it's not going to be a door opening or something happening in the room that you see. It's a feeling.
Interesting.
It's a feeling. You can test it. You can test and ask, once you get in touch with them, ask them a question about something, say, well, I get this promotion at work. And then see what the answer is. Sometimes it's very subtle and very quick, and see if they're right about it. And then I guess some spirits on the other side who say, well, how the hell should I know? I will. Sometimes going after a missing cat, I'll communicate with a woman in the house that passed away, and I'll be like, where do you think the cat is? And she's like, I don't know. So there is no, in the mediumship world, there is no set of rules. You never know what's going to come about. Anybody who says that they know everything about, what happens the other side, I'd question that, because I think the longer I do this, the more mysterious it gets. We do know certain things, kind of how to navigate what we're interpreting from the dead. That's the thing. It's all interpretation. It's not like these voices come out and just, tell you a whole story and this and that. A lot of times it's interpreting. It's sometimes symbols, sometimes it's words, sometimes it's yeah. So we have to, the whole thing about mediumship is kind of interpretation,
Yeah. It's bits and pieces. Maybe I think for me it's more of, I'll see a picture of somebody, and if there is a connection, I see like almost a movie reel of events that there might have missing pieces in between, but I'll see these flashes, and then sometimes I get words, like you were saying.
Yeah, well, sometimes it can be a lot of words, and then sometimes the thing that really throws me for a loop is that they become other people.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know who this person is, but it sounds a lot like this person. What are they doing? Are they shifting? Are they going, we forget too that when somebody passes away from this life, they didn't just have this life, they also had other lives. They might be coming into contact with people that they saw many lives ago.
Interesting.
Yeah, the whole thing about psychic work, which is really amazing, is that time means nothing. The time is infinite. The past is your present, and the future is your past, and it's all this. It's just so. The problem is we wake up each day, the sun comes up, and then the sun goes down. Then we're tired, we go to sleep. It's so hard to understand the other side when we live in this world.
Yep, absolutely. And I think you were absolutely right about time being infinite. Whereas here it's just so structured. And
and I mean, I say it seriously, are we going towards our future? Or are we going towards our past? And people are like, well, what the? but in the psychic realm, it does make sense. When somebody, I see this a lot with old people, talk to clients, who have parents in their 90s, some are near 100. And when you live that long, in fact, one reading I did just the other day, we were talking about this, where the older person starts talking about their childhood, kids they played with. They may not remember right now what pill they took at lunch, but they do remember their address on the street where they lived and what the neighbor looked like, and what their cat's name was, and all this stuff. So when we get older, we become less attached to the physical realm in this life and more in touch with this time space thing of the past.
Right.
It's not like they're saying, oh wow, well I'm leaving this life and I'm coming back into a new life as a stockbroker and I'm going to make millions of dollars, you know. They're coming back into the past, but it's what's amazing is when they do pass, where they go from there, you know.
Yeah.
We're not going so much back to that, but maybe they're revisiting it. Maybe, you know, even going to their previous lives and in
Mm, interesting. So it could be, let's say, somebody who has dementia in their 70s or 80s might be uncertain as to what happened 3 hours ago, but they remember things from their childhood or, any type of prior situation.
yeah, I mean, part of that's physical, part of it's physical with the brain,
Mm-hmm.
right? But there's another side to it that isn't just the physical brain. The other side of it is the spirit, is uh, I've seen especially hospice workers, okay, seeing a person communicating with somebody in the room that's not there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they have an occurrence with something that just freaks them out.
Mm,
So when we get old, when we're kind of towards the end of our lives, we are also we're attracting spirit energy to us. That's why some people who keep their elderly parent at home has got a real problem with spirit energy coming into the house.
mm,
Because that person who is older is less attached to this world. They're kind of half in, half out. And the
yeah.
spirits know that, and the spirits are coming, guiding this person, or just hanging out. And they may
Right.
not be people that they knew, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like we know the time is coming for us to take you home.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
I mean, you know, for me, I see signs when I'm looking online and they start talking about, you know, my car warranty is about to run out. So, you know, we all get signs. Just
True. Very true.
or when I go outside, there's all these vultures hanging on my fence. I'm just like, are you guys waiting for something here? You know?
Oh gosh, I hope not. Wow. Well, I'm trying to think what.
I mean, we really the funny thing is we were going to talk about cases and then we got in this conversation, which I think is very, very important because people do not have an understanding of how this works. I mean, they see us going on a video and talking about clues, and they're kind of like, "Are these people crazy?" You know?
Yes, probably. No. I I think we all feel a little crazy sometimes,
I
but
mean, I am crazy to a certain extent, for sure. But it's